أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Ibrahim, after أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وأنزل من السماء ماء فأخرج به من الثمرات رزقا لكم وسخر لكم الفلك لتجري في البحر بأمره وسخر لكم الأنهار وسخر لكم الشمس والقمر دائبين وسخر لكم الليل والنهار وآتاكم من كل ما سألتموه وأن تعدوا نعمة الله لا تحصوها إن الإنسان لظلوم كفار. In Surah Ibrahim chapter 15 verses 32 to 34, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that Allah is the one who created the heavens and earth and sent down from the sky water, then brought forth from it of the fruits as a provision for you mankind, and subjected for you mankind the ships, so that they may sail in the sea by his command, and subjected for you mankind the rivers, and he subjected for you the sun, the moon, both constantly pursuing there, and subjected for you the night and the day. And he gave you of all of what you asked of him. And if you count the favor of Allah, you will not be able to count it. If you count the blessing of Allah, you will not be able to count it. Indeed, mankind is surely unjust and ungrateful. The truth is, all of the Quran is either talks of humans or talk about humans. True, us humans are very tiny if we compare to the entire universe. If we even compare to our own Milky Way or our own galaxy, we are very small. But with regard to our own spirits and our own moral entity, we are very huge. After all, that's what we are, the soul and the moral entity, which the colonial powers recognized and worked on destroying, so they can succeed in devaluing you or debasing you or putting you down, as I will prove in a few minutes. Al-Khalifa Ali ibn Abi Talib, he tells us in a poem, دواؤك فيك وما تبصر وداؤك منك وما تشعر. Your cure is within you, but you do not see, and your illness is because of you, but you don't feel it or you don't know it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created each one of us to be a master and honorable human being, regardless of our colors, regardless of our ethnicity or background, our religion. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made everything in the universe to serve mankind, for the benefits of mankind and interest of mankind. Reading these verses from Surah Ibrahim portrays the status of every human being being an honorable creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the entire universe to serve that human being. And why? So who gave us humans this high status, this high honor, even though, like I said earlier, we are too small with comparison to other stars and galaxies? Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's that first blow that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put his spirit into Prophet Adam alayhi salam to prepare us humans to be the Khalifa, the vice regent on earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Ahzab chapter 33 verse 72, إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. Indeed, we, in reference to Allah, offered the trust to the heavens and earth, which are way much stronger than us human beings, which way much larger than us human beings, and the mountains, but they refused to bear it, and they feared from it, but bore it to mankind. Indeed, he was unjust, ignorant. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam reminds us of the honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us He told us, إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَلَقَ آدَمَ عَلَى صُورَتِهِ. The Prophet ﷺ told us that Allah created Adam in his image. So Islam elevates the status of all mankind. Doesn't talk about color, doesn't talk about ethnicity or anything. All mankind, Allah honored the status of all mankind to the degree it's recognized in all of our beings. Islam respects human spirits, body, intellect, will, and conscience. Islam gave to mankind an ideal code of human rights 14 centuries ago when Rasul ﷺ migrated to Medina. These rights aim at conferring honor and dignity to all mankind and eliminating exploitation, oppression, and injustice. Human rights in Islam firmly rooted in the belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah alone is the lawgiver and the source of human rights. Due to that human rights, it has divine origin. Human rights has a divine origin, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No ruler, no government, no assembly or authority can curtail or violate in any way the human rights conferred by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nor it can be surrendered by you humans, because we see a lot of Muslims surrendered their human rights to their tyrants. Human rights in Islam are an integral part of overall Islamic order, and it is obligatory on all Muslims, governments, and members of society to implement them in the letter and spirit within the framework of that order, of that Islamic order. It is unfortunate that human rights are being trampled upon with impunity without any punishment in many countries of the world, especially the Muslim countries, and more specific, the Arab countries. Such violations are a matter of serious concern and arousing the conscience of more and more people throughout the world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us specifically in Surah Al-Hujurat that a lot of scholars consider it Surah Al-Akhlaq, the Surah of morals. يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. O people, behold, we have created you all out of male and female, and have made you into nations and tribes, so that you might come to know one another. Verily, the noblest of you in the sight of Allah is the one who is more deeply conscious of Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not the white color, not the Arab, not the non-Arab. It's the one who is more conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Behold, Allah is all-knowing and all-aware. Not most of us saw the crime of George Floyd. The entire world saw that 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And because of that one honorable man being black, the whole 50 cities in 50 states rose up, and 18 other countries rose up, cities in 18 other countries. And we saw changes, especially in the states, in a state level, regarding the removal of Confederate flags, and some reforms in a state level or city or town or city level, not federal level, for police actions. This is from one honorable man. Look at the changes that took place. And his daughter, his baby daughter, goes and say, I think she's 6 if I'm not mistaken, my dad is changing the world. Look how many Muslims are dying on a daily basis. Look how many millions of Muslims in China being in concentration camps. Look how about our first Qibla in Palestine, the forgotten country, the forgotten Qibla, the forgotten Holy Land. Look at the thousands of people in Myanmar. Look at the massacres that's happening to our brothers and sisters in India. Look at the change of demographics in Kashmir that's happening right now. Where are the Muslims from all these systematic injustices? How come the world is not moving for all the injustices that's happening to these millions of Muslims? Even though I read to you verses from the Quran that mankind in general are all honorable. Not only George Floyd, even you Muslims, you are created to be a master. You are created to be superior. You are created to be honorable. Why are we treated like we don't matter? Even to our own people. We don't look at ourselves as Muslim lives matter, as Muslim affairs we care about. We don't care about it. As a matter of fact, we did not see any Muslims in general rise up to these systematic injustices. So the question that comes to mind now, how did we get to the dilemma that we need to convince each other that we are free people? We surrendered, a lot of Muslims surrendered their freedom to their tyrants. How all of a sudden it became harder to convince Muslims of their creed, of their aqidah, than to convince a non-Muslim of Islam? How is it appropriate for me now to ask the question, it is a know your value moment for the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Do you know your value? How did the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam became numb, became insouciant, untroubled, unconcerned about Muslim affairs and about Muslim lives? If we don't care about our own lives, about our own affairs, you're going to expect the non-Muslims to care? How did we get or falter this and to get to this point? How did we become so cheap and so invaluable in the eyes of all mankind, even in the eyes of our own selves? So I want to remind you of a hadith. Because of time, I'm not going to read the whole hadith, but this hadith, you all know it, that Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam already told us that will come a time when all nations will be attacking us like the beast attacking its own victim or own animals. And the companions asked the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is it because we're going to be small, because we're going to be less? He said, no, you're going to be a lot. Just that you know, we are 25% of the population of Earth. We are over 2 billion Muslims. Out of every 5 human beings, there is 1 Muslim. So we are a lot. But the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said that we are like, at that time will be like scum and rubbish, like that carried down by a torment. لكنكم كغثاء السيل. And when he was asked by the companions why, he told them, because of al-wahan in your hearts. Al-wahan is enervation or fatigue or drained out, Muslims feeling drained out, because they love this world and dislike death. So how did we get to that point? This is what I'm about to tell you, most of you don't know. I'll be surprised if one of you will know. Over 180 years ago, a British social scientist whose name is Lord Thomas Babington Macaulay, who invented a colonial strategy to control colonial peoples with minimal damage, and yes, he's white, called that strategy Education Minute. This strategy was first implemented and tested in India. And he went and traveled India, north to south, east and west of India, and met a lot of people. And we're talking in the 1800s. And at that time, I think it was toward the end of the Islamic Empire in India. So he said, and I'm going to quote him word for word and put it in your head what I'm about to say. He said, I have traveled in India long and width, the time of the rule of Islamic Empire of India. And I have not seen a single person beg or steal. I have found this country very wealthy. Its people have high moral values and an advanced degree of class. We will not even be able to defeat this nation unless we break its backbone, its spiritual and cultural heritage. So I suggest a new education system come to replace the old system, because if Indians start to think that everything foreign and English or British is good and better than local, they will lose their self-value, self-esteem and local culture and become what we want them to be, a nation that can be completely dominated. You heard that word a few weeks ago. That word did not come out of vacuum. So we must make them, he said, we must make them think that one shelf in a European library is equal to all of the literature and knowledge of all Indians and Arabs. We must focus all our efforts to create a layer or a class of people between us, the colonial power or the white man, and millions of Indians. We want a class of Indians who, even though they have Indian blood, we want them to believe that they are British in their taste, in their political views, and in their morals and mentality. End of quote. That education succeeded 100% in India. They moved it to the Ottoman Empire, succeeded there. They moved it to Egypt, succeeded there, and then the rest of the Arab countries. That education system is still being applied today in most of the Muslim countries, especially the Arab countries, and it is in all the ministries of education today. They also formulated a plan B for those who are attached to Islam by saying to them, you need to be enslaved and listen to your rulers, even if they hit you, they take your money, they rape your mothers, your sisters. It doesn't matter. You need to be a slave and worshiper to your rulers. That's the class that they made between them and the rest of us, the people. The extremist left, the extremist right, and all the scholars of the sultans and their slaves. And this is being applied until today to the Muslim world. And this is how we got devalued to the degree we believe ourselves now. We were raised, especially my generation and the generation before, that Muslim lives and Muslim affairs don't matter because of this educational minute by this enemy of Allah, Lord Thomas Macaulay. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So if we're going to ask for justice and freedom, we can't have it without power, because it will be futile to have justice and freedom without power. It will be destroyed right away. And to have power without justice, this is what we've been living for over 100 years now. This is what we've been living. This is how we got devalued. This is what we're living is the Macaulay strategy. So how can we have justice with power? Islam has a strong wall. The strong wall of Islam is the Quran and the Sunnah, and has a well-built door, and that well-built door is justice and freedom. If we don't go back to it, we will be staying devalued. We will always be down. Our scholars tell us three things to bring our value back up and to be superiors again. We have to go back to the teaching of Quran and Sunnah. This is what I've always been saying. We have to be united, because you cannot ask for justice and freedom without us being united. Remember what the Rasul ﷺ did in Medina, the first thing when he did. He united the Muslim. He united the Aus and the Khazraj. He united the migrants, the immigrants and the Ansar, the helpers. He made a strong unity of the Muslims first. And if we don't get united, we will not have our justice and freedom in a solid ground. And the third thing, they make their own, and that's with regard to countries, Muslim countries. They have to make their own food, medicine, and weapons. Otherwise, as long as they stay dependent on the 5 permanent members of the United Nations, we will always be down, we will always be devalued and debased, and we will always be don't matter. Our life will not matter if we don't bring ourselves up. But remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in Surah Al-Imran, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمْ أَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنُونَ. And do not weaken and do not grieve, and you will be the superior. But in that, the superior only in condition if you are believers. And how are you going to be believers? In the 3 conditions that I said. And that applies to us even here in non-Muslim countries. The way we're gonna be valuable is we have to show we are united first. We have to show we care about each other first. We have to show the non-Muslims that we respect each other first. If we don't, they will not respect us, they will not value us, and we will not have our justice and freedom. This is exactly what the Jews did in this country. The Jews had it worse than us in this country. But they united each other, and based on that platform, they became successful. All what I'm going to end up with is an Arabic cliche that I like. رحم الله امرئ عرف قدر نفسه. Allah have mercy on a human being that knows his value. So this is a know your value moment, and it's up to you to make that decision to stay down, or to be a servant or a slave to the tyrants, or to be a master like Allah created you to be. And I would like to remind myself first and foremost, and you, with the hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, 2 words heavy in the scroll of good deeds, light on the tongue. Subhanallah wa bihamdih, Subhanallah al-Azim. Say it at least 100 times a day, and know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to send prayers on the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when he said, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا آمنا بما أنزلت واتبعنا الرسول فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة.